I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
He's got it.
Where we miss,
22 supervisors are present. Supervisor Wamble is excused.
Also present is Eric Lemire from Human Services, Alexa Didinsky from Judiciary and Law, and Nance Price from the Executive Committee. Citizen comments. Any citizen wish to speak? Any citizen wish to speak? Please state your name and address. Oh,
Kenosha.
sorry. Okay.
On behalf of Mr. O'Keefe and the consideration of the committee to support him in that mission of being a blessing that way as his pastor and a resident of Kenosha County for over 40 years and working with the inner city young people for many years. He's part of our church, his wife as well, and so they're involved already in helping those that are in poverty and all that right here in the inner city of Kenosha. And so I would like to recommend that the committee would consider him for this position because of his, not just his ethnicity, but because of his heart and his desire to be a blessing to folks that way. And by the way, thank you all for serving. This has got to be something, all these late nights, but we're glad for that as well. That's it, Chairman.
Thank
Sir,
you.
can you, we didn't have the microphone on. Could you please repeat? I'm speaking up here.
Oh, there you are.
Could you please repeat your name and address for our records?
Yes, it's Pastor Jonathan Jameson, 1562 15th Court, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Any other citizen wish to speak? Please state your name and address.
Heidi Helgeson, 6507 40th Avenue. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm happy to be here. I haven't been here for a while, and I was reflecting that it's been just about a year that I got involved in this journey. And it's been a journey full of education, connection, communication, passion, and certainly conflict. And I have to say that I'm really grateful. I've learned so much, and it's been a joy to learn about it, and I think that's the teacher in me. It's fascinating, and it's a fun journey to be on with you all, and I want to thank all of you. I'm grateful to you and the work that you all do. If you've been here before, you know that I have stood up, and I have expressed my concerns, my disagreements, and my disapprovals. And as I reflected on this, I thought in order to go on with integrity, I have to also express my approvals, my agreements, and my appreciation. And I want to stand here tonight and talk to my county supervisor, who I have openly expressed concerns about. And I want to thank you, because you have taken the time to sit down and talk with me. I appreciate the passion that you bring. I think you're doing a lot of work to learn how to do this job, and I feel like you listen to me and you ask questions on my behalf. You're willing to talk to and ask the executive and your peers on this board. You've taken a little flack for that as well, and so I thank you. But I want to circle back to questions. That seems to be where we get kind of gummed up in these works. And I've sat here in committee and full board meetings listening to board members ask questions. I haven't always agreed with the necessity or relevance of questions, but generally they are asked with courtesy. And in response, I have heard both from citizens and board members that the questions were audastic and appalling and disrespectful. And I think we need to get very clear that asking questions is essential to democracy. Times change, events influence us, and we are certainly flooded with information. But questions can generate transparency. And if someone is insulted or offended by a question, perhaps we should be asking them why. What are you ashamed of? Are you hiding something? What is it that makes you uncomfortable? And if you are so uncomfortable, perhaps the public sector isn't the place for you. But let's remember, disliking a question doesn't make it inappropriate. And let's all proceed with integrity and openness and try to ask questions and answer them honestly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen wish to speak? Any other citizen wish to speak? Any other citizen wish to speak? Seeing none, citizen comments are closed. Okay, I just have, I want to make a quick report on Brookside. Last week, Brookside Board of Trustees Chairman Bob Pitts, myself, Director Linda Bagdala, Director of Nursing, and John Jensen, we met. We talked about the situation with Brookside, how everything is going, and especially with the nurses and CNA. And it seems like ever since we did make those adjustments with the pay and everything is going pretty well. Yesterday, we had the Board of Trustees meeting. I'm glad to report that our occupancy rate is improving, and this now at, I believe it's 107. And we're good on staffing with one RN position open on the second shift, which they're interviewing. They have a few applications in there. Probably by now has been fulfilled already. Willbrook is full, and there are 9 people in the waiting list. They're good on staffing. Financials are much better, with a loss of about $30,000 for the month of March, which is down from a loss of about $200,000 a month. And expectations are that in the next month or so, we should hopefully start to breaking even. So I think it's great news on that. Okay, with that, any supervisors' reports? Supervisor Nordigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of updates to the Public Works information that had come out on our meeting, and I wanted to bring up here. We are going to start reviewing the comprehensive bike plan. It has to do with the new bike paths that are coming in on some private land in the western part of the county. We need to include that in, and I believe the plan is supposed to be completely revisited for 2025. Golf, we're searching for Director of Golf Operations since Dan Dreyer had decided to retire, and we are out advertising that as well. And a little bit later on, there'll be a resolution that'll talk about there's a resolution that was passed at committee, Public Works Committee. It goes to Finance, and on that resolution, it had to do with the sale of the property off County Highway F after it was realigned. Some of that property now can be sold, put back on the tax rolls. And one of the properties, all the properties should have had a first right of refusal for a few of the owners that live adjacent to them. One of the properties did not. It should have had been put on. It did not. It since has been found that has been amended. It'll be going to Finance, and then it'll back into Public Works after that. And I just want to let the Public Works committee members know that that is coming back, and that is the reason why it was missed, because how the parcels changed their lot ID numbers or parcel ID numbers. So that has been since picked up and corrected, or in the middle of being corrected. And let's see. The Brookside generator is going to be a 2024 project. It's a 1-year lead time to get these generators for both Brookside and KCC. Brookside's much more complex project, so we have some engineering on board that we are doing to make sure we can get it into the budget properly. And then speaking of budgets, the KCDC Phase 3, I think it's HVAC, has come in over budget, so we are not going to proceed with that project until it gets reviewed, evaluated, and see what we can do to make any changes to get it in budget. That is the only project currently that is not going to meet budget this year that we've seen so far. I know we had that large one up on the road improvements for County Highway EM, but nothing else has, I've asked about anything else, and this was the only other project that way. We're in litigation on County Highway S on a land purchase. It's going to trial. I haven't heard, it's supposed to be this week. I haven't heard whether anything's happened to that yet. When I do, we'll get information out. The next meeting for Public Works will be May 22nd, 6:30 at Pringle Nature Preserve. Now, this could be a little bit of a fun meeting in that the all-terrain wheelchair, if it's there, if we've got that up and operational, we'll open it up an hour sooner. So I guess we can take joyrides, I'm not sure. But all are invited if that's happening. We'll have it on the agenda, or we'll have it posted as the time of the meeting. And then on a personal note, I wish to give just a hearty thanks. What a great job that the Pleasant Prairie 911 operator, PD, fire department, and paramedics did. Where I work, we had a young man, unfortunately, OD. He had taken drugs going to work, and they couldn't wake him up. Called 911. They instructed him on CPR. They did CPR until the time that the police officers who arrived first. All our training that we do that we had provided for our employees, everybody went in and sprung into action. And had I known about it sooner, I've got the Narcan in my car, but by the time I was told what happened, the police officers had already administered Narcan and saved this young man's life. And I very much appreciate it, and also the North Stand employees who sprung into action. They were outstanding, and it has to do with training, and I really encourage everyone to be trained on this. It's everywhere. I have no idea where this young man, how he OD'd, if it was something that he was already taking or what, but saved his life. So thank you, Pleasant Prairie. Monica, if you don't mind spreading the word, that we very much appreciate it. And there might be a few other donuts sent into the departments over there from us. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And just an update on what Supervisor Nordgren said about the trial and the lawsuit, that has been settled. So it's not going to trial. Any other supervisors? Any other supervisors? Any other supervisors? Seeing none, supervisor comments are closed.
County Executive Appointments, 10, Veronica King to serve on the Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Service Committee.
New business, Resolution 1 reading. Resolution 1 from the Public Works Facilities Committee, a resolution for 2023 World Migratory Bird Day proclamation. This passed unanimously at committee. Supervisors Carroll and Thomas were excused.
Supervisor Nordgren.
Move the resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Nordgren, second by Supervisor Stark. Supervisor Nordgren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This resolution is one that comes up every other year, and we are able to obtain some grants by, I guess, approving this resolution on a biannual basis. And I just heard that we've just received one of the rarest birds in Wisconsin that we've ever seen, called a flame-colored tanager up in Cudahy. So maybe the thing will fly down here and we'll all be able to see a rare bird. But I do ask your support, as it was approved fully in the committee.
Any comments? Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes.
Resolution 2 from the Executive Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Courtney Marshall to serve on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, Thomas, and Rodriguez.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move resolution 2.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Rose. Vice Chair Decker.
I'd like to defer to the Tammy, the Chief of Staff for the County Executive.
Tammy?
Thank you. Mr. Courtney Marshall has been a resident of Kenosha for over 30 years with deep roots in the community. He has worked in the Kenosha Unified School District as educational support staff and has a demonstrated passion for helping kids in our community, including countless hours of service, not only with Walking in My Shoes, but also at events such as those sponsored by the Boys and Girls Club and KUSD's African American Youth Initiative Club. As a realtor, Mr. Marshall brings his understanding of the housing market realities and his experience on the Governmental Affairs Committee for the South Shore Realtors Association to the REEC. He has been noted for advocating with compassion and respect, his integrity and honesty, and the value he places on teamwork and communication. Mr. Marshall will fill the seat vacated by Braden Backer and would serve an initial term which expires in December of 2023.
Thank you, Tammy. Supervisor Berg.
I also urge you to support this recommendation tonight for appointment. Of all the circles that I'm involved with, Courtney Marshall's name has come up many times, and it's always in a positive way. So I also urge you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stoker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On April 17th, I sent Mr. Marshall a request to meet and discuss his appointment. I didn't get any response. And then on April 23rd, I sent him a reminder, and I still have no response. This failure to communicate with a supervisor who will be voting on the appointment makes it impossible for me to support him. I have several things I would like to discuss with him, but I don't want to take the time up here. However, there is one thing that I think needs to be discussed openly, and that's a post that on September 7th, 2022, in that post he says, "Another reason why I'm on my way out of Kenosha." And in the comments section he added, "I am pulling my investments and all my investors' money out ASAP." If that's his position, I'm not sure why we would want him on this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Geschke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say that I read all of the applications for those who applied for these positions, and I just want to thank everybody, all 10 or 12 who applied. Thank you for your interest and involvement in our community, and thank you to you three who are before us tonight. That being said, I just have a couple of questions for each of the nominees, and so Mr. Marshall, if you wouldn't mind approaching the microphone at the back here, I just have a couple of questions for you, and I'll have the same basic questions for all of the appointees tonight.
Hello.
Hey there, Daniel Gashke. Thanks again for being here tonight. So I just have three questions. Again, same questions for everybody tonight, but my first question is, are you familiar with the history and the purpose and the mission of the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission? Have you read the founding documents, such as the mission and the purpose and the bylaws?
I've read some of it, yes, I have.
Okay, and do you agree with the mission and the purpose? The mission being to realize greater racial and ethnic equity and to dismantle racism in Kenosha County?
Yes, I think it's very important to do that.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, back in August of 2020, this board, the Kenosha County Board, declared that racism is a public health crisis here in Kenosha County. Are you aware that this board declared racism as a public health crisis? Were you aware of that resolution?
No, I was not aware of that, but I am aware it is a health crisis in this area.
Okay. Yeah, and that was my follow-up question, was whether you see it that way, whether you would agree that racism within our community has risen to the level of a public health crisis.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the reason why I noticed it is because of my post. I was in a predominantly white area, and all of a sudden the house was surrounded by about 8 sheriff deputies because of the color of my skin. Someone had called and said, hey, we got black people in our neighborhood, and the house was surrounded while I was showing a property to my parents to purchase. So, and that's what caused my post, that kind of caused the anger, and realized we have to do something about that in this area. I've been here for 30 plus years. I've never, ever dealt with anything like that before. So I believe we really do need a change.
Thank you. My final question, and the Chief of Staff gave several examples along with your application of ways that you've been involved in our community, but this is just an opportunity for you to share if there are any additional ways that you'd like to share, things over the past 5 to 10 years that you've done, some examples of organizations you've been a part of or activities you've participated in that help realize greater racial and ethnic equity and dismantling racism. Just any examples you'd like to share with us.
Well, I do a lot of charity work with Siloam Center, help with feeding different families. Thanksgiving on my own, I go out and supply people with food out of my pocket. I pay for it out of my pocket, things like that, where it's all different colors, so it's not just a white thing that's poor, black thing. I just support everybody. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you for your interest in serving in this way. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other supervisors? Any other supervisor? Thank you, Courtney. You can have a seat now.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Passes.
Resolution 3 from the Executive Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Elena Arrington to serve on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission. All present members voted aye, including Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move resolution 3.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Karros, Vice Chair Decker.
I defer to Tammy once again.
Tammy, you're on.
We're on. This is for the appointment of Elena Arrington. Ms. Elena Arrington has called Kenosha County home for over 26 years. She attended Carthage College and earned a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's degree in business design and innovation. She is committed to servant leadership and recognizes the value of the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission and the need for discussion around racial equity and advocacy. As a campus and community facilitator, she brings extensive perspective of the Kenosha community that will be valuable for conversations regarding accessibility to resources and community engagement. Ms. Arrington is noted for demonstrating her commitment to inclusion for marginalized communities and tackling tough conversations around racial equity and social justice. She looks forward to joining the REEC team of ethical leaders who welcome productive conversations around change for all communities who reside in Kenosha County. Ms. Arrington will fill the seat vacated by Mimi Yang and would serve an initial term which expires in December 2024.
Thank you. Supervisor Berg.
Again, I would urge everybody's support on this appointment. Ms. Arrington is a product of District 10, so that gives me a lot of pride for our district. I think this is, if I might be incorrect on this, but since I've been on the board, this is just a second appointment to any boards, commissions, or committees from District 10, so I'm very proud of that, that we have a second and potentially a third one here also. So again, I urge you to support.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose.
Ms. Arrington was, I nominated her to the county executive as an appointment I originally contacted her father, David, who was a former member of this board, and I thought he would be an excellent member, and he said, well, I think my daughter, who is 26, and a graduate of Carthage College, would be a good addition to this committee. She has a stake in this community, loves this community, is enthusiastic about it, and intelligent. She's part of a generation which will bring to this community things that a committee like this ought to take into account. She's like the people, the students to my left, has a stake in the future and ought to be part of that creation of that future. Her employer is the Wells Fargo Philanthropy Foundation, which has a headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina, which I think is very impressive and ought to be noted by the committee, by this board. So I think she is certainly well qualified to be on it, will contribute to it, and we enthusiastically should support her. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Geschke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Arrington, I have the same questions for you. If you wouldn't mind approaching the microphone, please. Again, I'm Daniel Gashke, and thank you for your interest in serving in this role. Same three questions that I asked the other applicants. First of all, are you familiar with the history, the purpose, and the mission of the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission? Have you read the founding documents, and do you agree with them?
Yes, and continuing to familiarize myself with the documents. Thank you.
Okay, great. Second question being, again, back in August of 2020, this board, the Kenosha County Board, declared racism as a public health crisis. And as a result, this commission grew out of that. Are you in agreement that racism is, in fact, risen to the level of a public health crisis here in our community?
Yes, I am in agreement, and I'm also aware of the multiple intersecting factors that racism can have on communities.
Okay, thank you. And then my third question, really, this is, again, just an opportunity for you to share. Again, the Chief of Staff and your application gave other examples of ways that you're involved, but if there's any other things that you'd like to share with us, organizations you've been a part of or activities you've been involved with that have helped further the mission of realizing greater racial and ethnic equity that you'd like to share with us, anything at all?
Sure. As Supervisor Rose shared, I did attend Carthage College, and I had the pleasure of serving on the Black Student Union as well as the United Women of Color. I also was a resident assistant, and I was involved with administration having conversations around how we can make campus a safe and enjoyable place for students of color and all students regardless of their identity.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Arrington. I appreciate your interest in serving in this role.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other supervisor? Any other supervisor? I'm sorry? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Resolution passes 21 yes, 1 no. Resolution 4 from the Executive Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Dwayne O'Keefe to serve on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move resolution 4.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Nordigan. Supervisor Decker.
Defer to Tammy once again.
Tammy, you're on again.
One more time. Mr. Dwayne O'Keefe is a small business owner who has been in business here in Kenosha for 20-plus years. He raised 5 children in this community and is proud of the success they have also been able to achieve. As a registered member of the Lakota Band of Chippewa Indians and of mixed heritage, Mr. O'Keefe grew up with the experience of being treated as a second-class citizen in both worlds. Originally from Superior, when Mr. O'Keefe arrived in Kenosha, he was homeless and a practicing alcoholic. He has now been sober for 30 years. Mr. O'Keefe managed an Amoco station for 9 years here prior to starting his own business. He served 7 years with the Kenosha County Dive Team as a public safety diver. He values hard work for the possibilities it has provided and is grateful for the opportunities he was given here in Kenosha. He believes we all have a duty to participate and that serving on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission will be an opportunity for him to give back to the community. Mr. O'Keefe will fill the seat vacated by Darrell Green and would serve an initial term which expires in December 2024.
Thank you, Tammy. Supervisor Berg.
Tired of hearing from me? Last time, for this, apparently. Again, I urge everybody's full support on this. I met Mr. O'Keefe right after I saw the appointment and realized that he was a long-standing business owner in my district, District 10. So again, I urge you for full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Geschke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, last series of questions from me. Mr. O'Keefe, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your interest in serving. Again, just the same basic questions that I'm asking all of the applicants. Just first of all, are you familiar with the history, the purpose, and the mission of the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission?
Yes, I am.
And do you agree with the mission and the purpose of this commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Secondly, again, back in August of 2020, this board, the Kenosha County Board, declared that racism is a public health crisis here in our community. Would you agree with that?
I haven't felt it personally, being where I come from, that I would kind of like to see a little more proof on the fact that it is actually a crisis. I mean, I'm sure that there definitely is racism, but I would like to see, you know, just a little more proof on it, but I'm sure there is.
Okay, and then my final question, again, the Chief of Staff and Pastor Jameson as well have shared examples of ways that you've served our community. Are there any other examples that you'd like to share with us? Again, this is just an opportunity if there's anything else you'd like to share of ways that you've been involved, activities you've participated in that have helped to realize greater and racial ethnic equity or to help dismantle racism within our community.
I did work with KEC, and I would mentor young people from Ruther that would come into my station and work with me or work for me. I also had one gentleman that was a little bit older, not a student there, but he was just a worker, and he was on the spectrum, but he did really well, and he kind of learned a lot of work stuff from me. And last I heard, he did end up joining the Navy, so it was pretty cool. I mean, it was something to see that. And other than that, just in the area that I'm at, the Wilson School District, you know, it's very diverse in that area. I see a lot of people coming and going, and I've never had a problem there, which, you know, some people ask, oh, do you ever have problems with your cars that's sitting there? I've never had an issue, and it's, like I said, this community has done a lot for me, and I'd like to do something for it. So that's it.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate your interest in serving in this role and for the ways that you've been involved. Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you. Any other supervisors? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Resolution passes 20 yes and 2 no. Resolution 5 from the Executive Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Supervisor Andy Berg to serve on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission. This passed 4-3 in committee. Voting aye was Chairman Nudo, Supervisors Carroll, Nordigan, and Thomas. Voting nay, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose and Rodriguez.
Supervisor Thomas.
Move motion 5.
Moved by Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Thomas.
Yeah, just like to speak, I can openly say that Andy and I do not always agree on everything. But I think that's what's needed on a commission like this, are not necessarily different points of views, but looking at data differently, based upon an assortment of things, and I'll think he'll bring that integrity of looking at the data, and we can all come to different perspectives based on that. So I'd like to encourage you to support Andy in this nomination.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. Supervisor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I take no joy in opposing another supervisor to a post on a committee appointed by the chairman here. But there are some concerns that I want to express to you, Andy, and to other members of this board as to why I oppose Mr. Berg. I can't understand why in the recent election you either created this question of military service of John Poole, who was running for this board. I understand your opposition to Mr. Poole at the time, and I certainly support anybody's right to support anybody for a position on this board or any other election. But to create a question about Mr. Poole's military service as a Marine veteran who served in Vietnam and received 3 medals, I don't quite understand why you just didn't at the time call him up, as I asked him myself, show me the proof that you were discharged honorably from the United States Marine Corps and that you served in Vietnam, and he did so. And if you'd care to see his papers, I have a copy here on my desk because he showed them to me because he wanted to prove it to me. And I don't understand why you, Andy, just didn't ask him in that election. His opponent didn't use that information against him, but you threw out this innuendo, this question about why are people saying he didn't serve? You were very clever in the way you put it. You put it in the form of a question. Some people are saying you didn't serve in the Marine Corps. I asked him, he produced the proof. And I ask you, why didn't you ask him? And he would have produced that proof. You know, serving in Vietnam at the time was not a popular thing to do. The people, when you returned from Vietnam, citizens didn't say to you, well, thank you for your service. You avoided their look because so many people were opposed to the war. They said cruel things to veterans who returned from Vietnam. No, thank you for your service. It was more like, how many babies did you kill today? And other things that were wrong and cruel and unpatriotic. So there were no accolades, there were no dinners, there were no parades. So this was a different kind of war. And to criticize him or to raise the question even, did you serve, I think is an insult. And how does this play into being a member of this committee? Well, I don't think we need people who bring misinformation, disinformation, or outright lies and falsities and be on that committee. I think the truth is sufficient here to be a member of that committee and produce a truthful document. And I question whether or not you will do that or use your position here to sell something that isn't true. The second thing I question is whether or not you are really committed to the Constitution. One of those rights is the right to have an attorney. And recently you came before one of the board meeting here and in public comments were critical of the representation that I gave to somebody who is distributing literature that I find abhorrent and disagree with, but I support that individual's right to say it. And if you knew anything about my background, Mr. Berg, you would understand why I oppose what he said. But I will tell you this, This country supports the idea that people have the right of free speech and the right to counsel, and this board has supported that right to counsel by money placed in our budget, as well as the state budget, as well as the federal budget to support it. And we appoint counsel to people who can't afford it. It's part of the fabric of the Constitution. Your words of criticism a couple of meetings ago lead me to question, do you support those kinds of rights? I want to say that those are rights that are the very fabric of this country, and I can't support somebody who would join a committee without the full support behind the Bill of Rights. That's why I oppose your nomination this evening.
Thank you. Supervisor Poole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Supervisor Rose covered my main subject there, but I will just say that we need people who will thoughtfully consider the information presented and make rational decisions, and I don't think Supervisor Berg is that person. So, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would like to echo the sentiment Supervisor Rose shared with us tonight. Some years ago, I stood in front of this county board and I gave what ended up being an emotional speech to all of you addressing racism in this country and addressing how my family came to this country, my grandfather in particular, from a communist country with the hope of achieving the American dream. Shortly after he got here, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and also served in Vietnam. And just last year, I lost him. For those of you who were at my swearing in next door at the courthouse, many of you knew that my grandpa was gravely ill and was awaiting pictures. As everyone in this room knows, my last election was a close one, to say the least, and I don't think there was anybody on earth who was more ecstatic about the results of the recount than my grandfather was. Obviously, he played a big role in my life. I'm incredibly proud of him. But he, like Supervisor Poole, also faced backlash from the community that he came home to after Vietnam. To him, it was especially hurtful. He left communist Cuba for a new life in a free America. And what he always told myself and my siblings, my mother, was the reason he joined the U.S. Army and fought in Vietnam was because if he couldn't stop communism in Cuba, he wanted to stop its horrific atrocities elsewhere in the world. And never once was his service questioned in the modern day. And I find it abhorrent that somebody on this board, a veteran himself, would question a Marine Corps veteran like Supervisor Poole's service. And like Supervisor Rose stated, pose it as a question. Well, I didn't really say it, I just questioned it. And while I disagree with almost everything, on almost everything with Supervisor Berg, if anyone once came to me and questioned his military service, I would be the first to defend him. I think if you support this nomination tonight, this appointment tonight, you're telling Supervisor Berg and others who question true military veteran service that that's okay. And that's wrong. So I will not be supporting him this evening.
Thank you. Supervisor Stalker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bit of a concern with Supervisor Berg and his ability to correct things when errors are pointed out. And that's not something that I think we need on this committee. He made posts about the budget and the bonding that were not true. I spent time trying to explain to him that his posts were not true. And as of Sunday night, those posts are still there. There's no correction in there. And he admitted to finding out, through others that his posts were not true and not factual. And in this position, we need people who will admit and correct things when they make mistakes or are wrong. And in my experience, and Supervisor Berg is not that kind of person. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Supervisor Nedwesky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two questions to direct to two different supervisors, if that's okay.
Well, we're not going to have a question and answer from supervisor at this point. I'm sorry, you said two other supervisors, Supervisor Berg.
I have a question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Please go ahead and do it.
Could you explain to the board why you nominated Supervisor Berg for this position?
I nominated because Supervisor Berg, I think, is very well qualified to be in this position. No matter what anybody's saying right now, that was during election, there was a lot of things said between other people, and it was a question whether it was right or not. He has been duly elected by his district, and if it's good enough to be a county board supervisor and serve on the committee of the board, I think he's well qualified to be serving on a subcommittee. And if we're trying to pick point, or whatever, for personal reason or whatever, everybody knows the Supervisor Berg and myself disagreed on mostly everything. However, this is not a personal thing. It's what I think it's right to have, and I think Supervisor Berg fits the best person to fill this position right now. Supervisor Geschke was on. Tried to keep him on. However, for his family reasons or whatever, personal reasons, he decided not to do it. Supervisor Geschke's district and Supervisor Andy Berg's district are pretty much similar, so I'm replacing one with someone else that is represented pretty much the same district. Last year, I was going to appoint two people. I asked almost, I'm not saying everybody, almost everyone in this room to serve in the committee, and they declined. Okay? So this year, Supervisor Berg expressed the opinion to be on the committee, and that's the reason why I appointed him.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My next question is to Supervisor Berg. Why do you want to serve on the Racial and Ethnic Equity Commission? And do you have, you don't have to, but if you'd like to respond to some of the questions that were asked by other supervisors, you're welcome to at this time.
I appreciate that. Why? I grew up in Chicago and Skokie. I haven't needed training in how to deal with diversity. I grew up in diversity. Coming from that, moving to Kenosha, it's a different world between the two, good or bad. Both have their goods and bads. But I do represent the second most diverse district in the entire county, and I want to continue to find ways to better situations where we feel that we falter in the community, and find a way to address those issues and improve not just the district, but the entire city and the entire county. In regards to what was stated earlier, it's who's going to question, who's got the right to question a veteran? Most people don't have the right to question somebody that claims they're a veteran. A veteran has to check a veteran. That's our job. That's our duty. That's part of our integrity also. The acronym for the Army is leadership: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. That's our job, to question somebody else that's claiming they're a veteran when all they do is put that on their paperwork, on their campaign paperwork. Now, was my approach maybe not the right approach? Could it have been done differently? Yes, but we've all done things differently. We've all done things in our life that we feel we could do differently. I did acknowledge Supervisor Poole as being a veteran. As Vice Chair Decker's husband had commented on my post, I do apologize, Andy. I didn't see your post thanking him. So that was acknowledged on there, that I did acknowledge that he was a veteran. He and I both took pictures at Chick-fil-A when he saluted the flag as it was being raised, and I posted that and commented, veteran Supervisor John Poole. So I do acknowledge it. Was it campaign dirtiness? Yeah, maybe, absolutely. But there could have been another approach. And I will say this, as a veteran to a veteran, publicly, I apologize for putting you in that situation. Second, as a Vietnam veteran, I would love for you to join my post, Pleasant Prairie VFW Post 7308. We meet at Birchwood Grill, and I will pay for your lifetime membership out of my pocket as a gesture to you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Berg. I am inclined to vote for this appointment mostly for the reason that you do represent the second most diverse district in the county, and I believe that you have been a good voice for your district, so you'll get my vote tonight, and I encourage you all to support this nomination.
Thank you. I know you had your lights on, Supervisor Berg. Did you want to add anything, or you just say what you wanted to say it, or?
Yeah, I guess I'll add a couple things that I don't know if Supervisor Gashi has his light on, but in regards to a couple things, couple questions that he had, some of what I am also involved with in the community or out nationally is I'm also a member of the NAACP and a member of NAGA, which is a National African American Gun Association. I think integrity is important. That's, again, one of the staples of the acronym leadership for the Army. And as Supervisor Thomas pointed out, we have different ways of looking at data, and data really is the heart of integrity right there. You're going to get out of numbers. Hopefully you're not just looking at numbers a certain way. You're looking at all of the numbers, no matter how it looks in our community. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other supervisors? Any other supervisors? Roll call requested.
Resolution passes 16 yes, 5 no, and Supervisor Berg abstained.
Thank you. Next one.
Resolution 6 from Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rodriguez, Poole, and Nedwesky, and the Executive Committee, a resolution recognizing June 2023 as National Dairy Month. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move Resolution 6.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Rose. Vice Chair Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution recognizes June as National Dairy Month. As we all know, dairy is very important in Wisconsin and Kenosha County, and this resolution honors our dairy farmers and members of Kenosha County's dairy industry for their continued work to keep food on families' tables and contributions to our economy. I urge your support of this resolution.
Thank you. Any comments? Any comments? Seeing no comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Resolution 7 from Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rodriguez, Poole, and Nedwesky, and the Executive Committee, a resolution recognizing May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as Public Service Recognition Week. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisor Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move Resolution 7.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Nordigan. Vice Chair Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution recognizes May 7th through the 13th of 2023 as Public Service Recognition Week. This resolution commends public service for their outstanding contributions to Kenosha County during the week and throughout the year. I urge your support of this resolution.
Thank you. Supervisor Rodriguez.
My light was on for the previous item.
Okay. Any supervisor? Any supervisor comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes.
Resolution 8 from Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rodriguez, Poole, and Nedwesky, and the Executive Committee, a resolution recognizing May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 14th through the 20th, 2023 as National Police Week. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker.
Move Resolution 8.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Thomas. Vice Chair Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution recognizes May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 14th through the 20th, 2023 is National Police Week. As we all know, Kenosha County and law enforcement agencies in Kenosha have lost officers on duty, so this recognizes them, and also it honors the outstanding men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe. I urge your support of this resolution.
Thank you. Supervisor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was just hopeful that the Reggie maybe has that resolution in front and we can reference the names of those that have passed away in line of duty.
I can do that. I got it.
Or if
Please.
whoever has it in front of them.
Please do.
Town of Salem Department of Public Safety Officer Michael Ventura, end of watch, July 8th, 2016. Deputy Sheriff Frank Fabiano, Jr., end of watch, May 17th, 2007. Deputy Sheriff Blanco Aquino, end of watch, July 21st, 1991. Deputy Sheriff James Reichel, end of watch, July 2nd, 1961. Deputy Sheriff Jacob Kuehl, end of watch, June 11th, 1922. Kenosha Police Officer Drew M. Bollier, end of watch, May 15th, 2004. Kenosha Police Officer Gary W. Fraid, end of watch, June 7th, 1973. Kenosha Detective Donald F. Murphy, end of watch, June 2nd, 1953. And Kenosha Police Officer Anthony Pingiorte, end of watch, March 31st, 1919.
Thank you.
Supervisor Thomas?
That's all.
Okay. Any other supervisors? Any other supervisors? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes.
Resolution 9 from Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rodriguez, Poole, and Nedwesky, and the Executive Committee, a resolution recognizing May 14th through the 20th, 2023 as National Skilled Nursing Care Week. All present members voted aye. Chairman Nudo, Vice Chair Decker, Supervisors Rose, Nordigan, and Thomas.
Vice Chair Decker, let's try it again.
Move Resolution 9.
Moved by Vice Chair Decker, second by Supervisor Rose. Vice Chair Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution recognizing May 14th through the 20th, 2023 as National Skilled Nursing Care Week. We have a great nursing home owned by the county and run by the county. Wanted to obviously recognize Brookside Care Center and all the employees there, and support all the nursing homes in Kenosha County. I urge your support of this resolution.
Any comments? Any supervisor comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes.
Communications 12, communication from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution in support of a memorandum of understanding between the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, Village of Pleasant Prairie Police Department, City of Kenosha Police Department, and the Village of Twin Lakes Police Department.
Refer to Judiciary and Law.
Communication 13, communication from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution approving Country Thunder Activity Control License 2023.
Refer to Judiciary and Law.
14, communication from the Human Services Committee, a resolution to modify the Division of Aging, Disability, and Behavioral Health Services 2023 budget for a new position Community Prevention and Education Specialist, Behavioral Health.
Refer to Human Services and Finance Committees.
15, communication from the Human Services Committee, a resolution to modify the Division of Aging, Disability, and Behavioral Health Services 2023 budget for a grant, the Independent Living Support Pilot.
Refer to Human Services and Finance Committees.
16, communication from Vice Chair Decker, Supervisor Rodriguez, and Supervisor Poole, a resolution recognizing July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month.
Refer to Executive Committee.
17, communication from Supervisors Bashaw and Franco, an ordinance amending municipal code for Kenosha County.
Refer to Legislative Committee.
The approval of the April 18th, 2023 annual meeting and organizational meeting minutes by Supervisor Thomas.
Supervisor Thomas.
Move the motion.
Moved by Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Gantz. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Rodriguez, second by Supervisor Berg. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.